Okay, we welcome those of you watching the Miami, Dallas, and Buffalo, New England games. Bob Costas along with O.J. Simpson. How about the Dolphins right at the end? It's the second time they've done that this year. In the first Jet game, they threw up a Hail Mary just before halftime and scored. And here, 48 from Marino to Andre Brown.
I can't help but feel sorry for Jimmy Johnson, the Dallas coach, because they have totally outplayed Miami in the first half. I think David Shula, who used to call the plays for the Miami Dolphin offense, he's now with Dallas. I think he understands Dallas's passing game, and they were totally prepared. I mean, Miami's passing game, and they were totally prepared for Miami today because they were doing a super job against Marino until that last play before the half. They threw up a Hail Mary, something you can't prepare for. It's just who wants the ball the most. Andre Brown goes up, he catches a pass, they score. They did the same thing last week when they were getting beat in the first half against the Jets, and they came back and ate the Jets up in the second half. And I got a bad feeling that Miami is going to come out in the second half and sort of put it to Dallas.
We're going to show you that play again in just a moment, but quickly through the scores. Cleveland at home against Kansas City. Marty Schottenheimer's return. Cleveland has held Christian Okoye, the league's leading rusher, to 10 carries for 20 yards. Matt Barr drills a 40-yard field goal just seconds before halftime. Cleveland with the lead, 3-0. Steve Pallur goes down with a knee injury for Kansas City, and DeBerg is in at quarterback. They've just gone to halftime in Cincinnati, and the Bengals are in front of Detroit, 28-7. Boomer Esiason with 2 touchdown passes in a 28-point second quarter for the Bengals, who have lost 4 of their last 5, and they're picking a good time to get it back in gear because the next 2 weeks they're at Buffalo and at Cleveland, and they're just 500 now at 5-5 in the AFC Central. San Diego playing at Pittsburgh, and the Chargers on a Jim McMahon touchdown pass to Anthony Miller of 20 yards, offsetting a pair of Gary Anderson field goals for the Steelers. San Diego leading in a battle of 4 and 6 teams, 7-6 at the half. Now in the game Juice was talking about, Miami playing at Dallas and creeping back into it at 14-10, scoring just before halftime. A look at some of the highlights. David and Don Shula, son and father, shaking hands just before the game. Now here's Dallas grabbing the lead on a Broderick Sargent touchdown plunge of 1 yard in the first quarter. It caps an 81-yard scoring drive. They go up 14-3 when Troy Aikman, with lots of time, finds Darrell Johnston for the 6-yard touchdown. It looks like they'll have an 11-point lead, and Jimmy Johnson is happy, but here it is. 1 second to go. Marino backpedals. And he heaves it up there. Look at all the bodies there. Who comes down with it on the jump ball? Andre Brown, 48-yard touchdown. They kick the point after, and they close to within 4 at the half at 14-10. Buffalo and New England, the game some of you are watching. Thurman Thomas with the 3-yard touchdown run early in the game. Buffalo leading 10-6. The Bills surviving a couple of fumbles. The Patriots recovering 2 of them, one by Thomas and another on a kickoff by Don Beebe deep in Buffalo territory, but in each case settling for a Jason Starowski field goal, so it could have been worse for the Bills. At 7-3, they lead the 3-7 Patriots 10-6 at the half. Minnesota gets a 93-yard kickoff return on the game's first play from Herschel Walker. They then miss the extra point, so the Vikings settle for a 6-3 lead at halftime at the Vet. Steve DeLine is the new kicker after they cut Luis Zendejas a few weeks ago, I should say, for Philadelphia, and they have missed 3 field goals in the first half. 1 blocked, 2 others missed, so Philadelphia could have the lead. Instead, they trail 6-3 in this one at the half. Tampa Bay playing at Chicago. The Buccaneers have lost 5 in a row. In fact, they haven't won since they beat the Bears in Tampa, and they lead this one at Soldier Field 10-3 at halftime. And the Atlanta Falcons, who have won 3 consecutive home games and are much tougher than their 3-7 record indicates, leading the 5-5 New Orleans Saints 10-3 halftime in Atlanta. When we come back, a preview of the upcoming game between the Raiders and the Oilers from the Astrodome. We'll check with Ahmad Rashad and Don Criqui as the halftime show continues right after these messages.
We're the Raiders. I think they're kind of has-beens as far as, that image. I think that was back when, they had all those other guys playing for them. I think that image is kind of gone. I think we are kind of the bad boys in the NFL. I think we've kind of taken over that image.
We're not the kind of guys that are going to back down from anybody. You can tell by watching us play this year. We're really willing to stand up and fight against anybody we come up against. And if they're going to do that, fine.
We built up a reputation ourselves, and they're trying to get back to their type of football, which people have been comparing to us or comparing us to them.
Really, it has to come from the players. I think a coach, you can't take a putty butt and turn him into a trained killer. Your players have to have that inside of them to play that way.
A putty butt?
Yeah, a guy that, one of them, a California guy, a beach guy, a guy that goes surfing.
at Bo Jackson here. He can surf without a board. They asked Glanville about are the Oilers dirty, and he said, well, we're not the dirty, but we do live on the edge. And big story developing with the quarterback. Looks like Berline's going to be back, Ahmad.
Well, in talking to the players on the Raiders, they feel like Berline is their guy. He's the guy that comes in and gives them a lot of confidence. But the key thing here, he's got a bad knee, and the way the Oilers play, the Raiders are going to have to protect Berline for him to be effective.
Last year when they played, it was one of the best games of the year. The Oilers winning on the last play over the Raiders, 38-35. So we're expecting more of the same. Now back to New York and Bob Costas.
All right, Don, but one question here for Ahmad. You've spent the last couple of days in Houston. Now, Don just said that Glanville admits that his team is close to the edge of dirty. So will Glanville admit that a couple of years ago when I asked him about that, you know, it was a legitimate question. Is Glanville ready to smoke the peace pipe with me? That's my question.
Bob, you keep trying. You keep trying. He's upset at you. And he's never going to get over it. He wants you to put on a football uniform so he can have you go out there and play against his boys.
Well, that's out of the question. However, if Glanville would like to come here to the studio, I'm sure we can settle our differences.
You know one thing, Bob?
Yeah.
Bo Jackson, talking about Bo Jackson is the type of guy. His impact on this team is just like the impact that a guy that used to play for Buffalo, who now is an old broken-down dude sitting next to you. But when you have a great player like that on your team, it makes everybody play better. And Bo Jackson is doing the same thing for this this L.A. Raider team as O.J. Simpson did in Buffalo.
All right, Don, Ahmad, thanks. O.J., your thoughts?
Well, I thank Ahmad for remembering this broken-down old running back. I agree with him. Bo Jackson has turned this Raider team around. Also, I think Howie Long playing the ball that he used to play has really helped the situations there. Now, this is going to be a grudge match. I have visions in the preseason when these two teams play. I can see Bruce Davis, a former Raider, blocking Craig Townsend, knocking him to the ground. And when Townsend was down, Bruce Davis just drilled him into the ground. I was standing on the sideline when Townsend came to the sideline at that preseason game, and Townsend said, man, these guys, I don't know what's with these guys. They're trying to hurt us, but we got to play them this season. We're going to get even. So I expect this to be a bloodbath down there.
A bloodbath?
Yeah, I think they're going to be, the flags are going to be flying everywhere, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of guys kicked out of the game today.
Well, that sets the stage. So later today, many of you will see that game from Houston, while others will see the Seahawks at the Giants. A doubleheader day on NBC. It is no place for the weak of heart. We'll continue in a moment.